Hello and thanks for listening to Acting Related, the My Site.actor podcast. I'm your host, Frank Prendergast, and today I'm chatting with actor and good friend Claire J Loy. Really excited to share this episode with you because Claire shares the process that she went through to sign with her ideal agent in Ireland. There's a lot of really vague advice out there. Claire goes into really great specific detail. If I were looking for an agent, this is exactly what I would do. I would just follow Claire's process to the T. Her process was adapted from Bonnie Gillespie's teaching, so we chat a bit about how great Bonnie is and how much we both love her teachings. And we also talked about the importance of knowing exactly what you want as an actor so that you can build your tribe, shape your community, however you want to put it, to support your goals. And we also talked a bit about self-taping and about self-tape equipment, what the crucial equipment is and when to buy it. Okay, let's chat. Claire, thanks a million for joining me for a chat. Really good to have you on the podcasting as we are always chatting about this stuff anyway.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
And one of the reasons I had you on was you've been writing these really brilliant posts on social media lately, and one of them, which I thought would be the really good one to start with, was you wrote a whole post on like how you got an agent, and also you were saying as well, I think you said at the end of the post that a lot of the kind of strategy that you used was based on Bonnie Gillespie's book, Self-Management for Actors. So we can have a bit of a love-in about Bonnie Gillespie as well, because I think she's absolutely fantastic.
The bold Bonnie, yeah, she's fantastic, yeah.
But yeah, so would you be up for just sharing like step by step, just walk us through what you did once you decided, right, I am going to find myself an agent in Ireland?
Yeah. Okay, so having found a lot of my own work myself through the years, I knew that I had come to a point in my career that if I wanted to progress in the direction that I wanted to go in, I needed the support of an agent based in Ireland. So I went about getting one. And so what I did is I went online and I researched every single one of the agents from big to small and everyone in between. And I made a spreadsheet of each of them. So on one column, I had the name of the agency, and then I had different criteria going across. And my criteria could be anything from did they represent actors already like me? Did the actors who they repped have TV and film credits? Or were they mostly theatre based? Because I was focusing, and I am still focusing mostly on screen work. Right. Did the agency have, were they officially linked to IMDb? So then I could find out who was repped by them. Did they have multiple agents working in the agency, or was it a boutique agency with one agent? Did they have an online presence? And what was their website, and how did they communicate with the actor, with anyone who might be landing on their website?
Right.
And how did I make me feel? So it was like really a really cool, personal approach.
Yeah, nice. And how did you actually come up with the list of agents day one? And now, because I know you're one of the most informed people I know. So I'm sure you probably just knew a lot of the agents anyway, but did you have like a discovery process for who else might be around that maybe you weren't aware of or anything like that?
So I literally Googled Irish talent agents. A lot of modeling agents came up, and a lot of extras agencies came up, or agents who were looking after writers, but often those agents that look after writers they had like a literary wing to their massive agency, often had a performer wing. So they were added to my list. So Google was my friend. My friends were my friends. I asked them who they were repped by. Or what I would do is I would type into IMDb the name of an Irish actor whose work I admire and see who repped them. And then that was how I came across the different agents and different agencies.
Because this is really interesting, actually, because this is very much like, yes, I can see how it would be like inspired by Bonnie Gillespie's work, but from what I've investigated of Bonnie Gillespie's work, you very much kind of made it your own process, which I think is really important actually, and makes a
Oh
huge
yeah.
amount of sense. But because like I did some of the Bonnie Gillespie work, and the work that I did was like when I was watching programs. So I'd be watching like Irish programs, and I'd be watching, or not even Irish programs, but just programs on TV, but things that I, within this range of possibilities of things that I might be put up for. And then I would look at like who was in the roles at the level like just above where I'm at. And I would make a spreadsheet of all those actors and check them on IMDb and check who they were repped by. And then that gave me a spreadsheet of, because I had no idea when I started out, I hadn't a clue what agents were out there apart from one or two of the big names. And so that gave me a list of like the agents in Ireland who were repping the actors who were like above my level where I kind of wanted to be. Yeah. Unlike you, I never then did anything with that data. I ended up deciding that I did not want an agent for the time being. But that's so sorry.
So you did do something with that data. You made a choice about what you wanted to do next.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so you did. So should we explain who Bonnie Gillespie is, or have you spoken
that's a good
about
point.
Bonnie
Yeah,
before?
We probably should. Yeah. Do you want to do that?
Yeah. So Bonnie Gillespie is an LA-based casting director, and I suppose what is she, like an actor mindset coach and actor business coach. And she's written a book called Self-Management for Actors, and it is what it says on the tin. It teaches you the business side of acting. So there's no craft or anything like that. She just starts off presuming that you know what you're doing in terms of craft. She teaches you how to approach agents, and if you're in a larger market like the States, approach a manager, how to identify which ones are the best fit for you, how to identify which casting directors you should be contacting and how, because you shouldn't be contacting all of them. You should only be contacting the ones you want to work with.
Sure.
Just something I think maybe actors forget about, that they have a choice, that they shouldn't just be, grabbing at whatever is out there. They can decide with specificity what it is they want to do. When I first started reading her book, and it is absolutely worth the investment of €20 or whatever it is, I was like, oh God, this is a lot of woo-wee kind of stuff, and I'm not into it. And then I started watching her YouTube channels, and I was like, oh, this totally makes sense. It absolutely makes sense. And you do have to adapt it to your own set of circumstances. So she's in LA where it's really busy. She has a lot of LA clients, a lot of New York clients, so they can operate using her system a little bit more closely than what, like I'd say, an Irish actor in the Irish and the UK market can. But it is absolutely adaptable to wherever you are.
Yeah.
And a lot of her stuff is free.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, she has incredible stuff on her blog and on her newsletter, and but the book is fantastic. I mean, because I came across her when I had an agent, and then we reached a point where we just seemed to be at this plateau that we couldn't go any further with, and we ended up having a chat, really good, friendly chat, and we both just decided actually it now is a good time to part ways. And at the time I thought, yeah, I will find another agent, and then I ended up deciding not to. But at that point I was like, okay, I know there's stuff that I could be doing to further my career as an actor, but I have no idea what those things are. And I was hunting around to try. I was like, I know they're out there. I've just got to find the right person to who knows this stuff. And I first found a program that I paid quite a lot of money for, and I ended up asking for my money back. There was a money back guarantee, and I ended up availing of it, and they were not happy. And but I had done I think they had a 30-day money back guarantee. So I did about 2 weeks of the program, and it was the most mind-numbingly boring, terrible, awful thing. And I guess I probably hadn't done my due diligence before buying the program. I just took their marketing copy at face value. So 2 weeks in, I was doing the research and checking all the reviews, and in the reviews I found someone saying, do not do this program. Whatever you do, just buy the book Self-Management for Actors. by Bonnie Gillespie. And that's how I came across her, and I read the book, and it was exactly what I was looking for. And there was so many just light bulb moments of like, oh my God, this is like, it's such common sense, and yet I just
and it's
did
so
not
easy.
think of it. Yeah.
Well, yes, I recommend her and her book to anyone who's either starting out or even well-established people.
Yeah,
because,
I'd say anyone who
isn't
knows
just
me
for,
is sick of hearing me talk about Bonnie Gillespie and Tom Kibbe. It's like,
yeah.
So Bonnie Gillespie for the business side, Tom Kibbe for the actual
The
craft. Exactly. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So
Okay,
let's go back to your process. So you did the spreadsheet. You had all of these different columns that were based on what the things you were interested about an agency.
Yes. What I did was made my criteria based on what I was looking for, not what they were looking for.
Yeah.
Because I didn't care at this point what they were looking for. Only because they weren't looking for me at this point. I was looking for them. So I had my criteria, and then I took some time to identify honestly what my career goals were for the next couple of years and what would be a realistic goal to achieve. So there was no point in me going, my career goal, I want to be the next Doctor Who. That's not going to happen in the next 3 years, right? It's certainly not going to happen if I'm based here either, right? But I had specific things that I wanted to achieve. And when I say wanted to achieve, I meant I was passionate about those things, not just, well, someone else has done it, so I think I must do the same thing. And that took a while actually to identify those. But when I did, it made the next step a whole lot clearer and easier, because then I went back to my spreadsheet and I said, who on their books has achieved the thing that I want to do next, which is similar, I think, to what you were talking about when you were talking about looking at the actors who were booking the roles that were kind of bigger than stuff that you were booking. So that's what I did. And by doing that, I was able to get rid of some of the agents off of my list because their clients were booking where I was booking at that time. Gotcha. If I'm making sense, right? Yeah. So they were going above in role size or quality size of the project. It was kind of at the same level, and I didn't want to go into somewhere that I was at the same level. I wanted to go up, right? So that got rid of a few of them. And then I had a look. I spent ages going through the books of the agents that were left and who was on their book and what kind of work, again, that they were doing. And surprisingly, when I did that, and because I was aware of what my own career goals were, I was able to get rid of even more off my list of agents, including the big agents. Right. Because I was like, I'm not interested so much in joining that big agency. And I went into the exercise presuming they were interested in me, right? So I never had the attitude of, well, who am I to be signed by that agent? Sure. I just went, no, they're not for me. At that point, I was left with about four agencies. And then I started asking colleagues, people I'd worked with before, or friends who were repped by those agents, how they were getting on in that agency, how the agents liked to communicate, and what their, not so much what their own career goals were, but what sort of opportunities had opened up for them since they met with this agent or since they signed with them. I didn't ask, who did you get in front of, and how hard does your agent work for you, you know? So it was entirely from their personal experience. That's what I wanted to know. Right. And then that I was able to drop another few agents, one agent after that one, and I was left with three. Right. Three agents who I knew, these are we're all singing from the same hymn sheet here on this one. I personally knew actors on their books, and they had all gotten a good review, basically, from their actors. Sure. As in, they could communicate professionally and efficiently, and there were no bullshit about them. I'm not a kind of a person who likes that. Some of the agents can be quite arrogant in how they communicate with people, and I'm not into that. Some people are, though. Some people like a big bullshit kind of an agent, and for me that wasn't appropriate just for what I wanted. So then I emailed all three of them, having established what it was that I wanted to tell them, which was what I had already done and where I wanted to go next in my career. out of the three, two of them responded, and I set up meetings with two of them. On the third one who didn't respond, I sent a follow-up email after 2 weeks to see if maybe they would respond to me, and they didn't.
Right.
And I want to talk about that maybe in a second if you remind me to talk about it.
Cool. Yeah.
So then I met with an agent. I met her at midday. Well, this is kind of important. I emailed saying, hello, my name is this. These are some of my credits. I'd like to arrange a meeting with you to discuss a future working relationship. I will be in Dublin on such and such a day. Would you like to meet for coffee? I didn't leave the date up to them. I left the time up to them. And she responded with, yes, I'm free from this time. Let's do it. Brilliant. So boom, straight away, went to Dublin, met Alex Cusack at midday in a coffee shop. And at about 2:30, she said, Jesus, I better go back to the office. Because we had gotten on so well and we talked for so long, and we were off our faces on coffee because we just kept down in them. And I knew within minutes of having to chat with her that this was the woman for me. She made me laugh. Right. I could trust her. She was down to earth. She was an effective communicator, and she was most importantly a bullshit-free zone. And I was like, yes, this is my lady. So then I emailed the other agent with whom I had already arranged a meeting just to say, thank you for your interest. I've signed with a different agency. Hopefully we'll meet at some time in the future, kind of a thing. Yeah, so that is how I met my agent.
Brilliant.
But at that meeting, I had a notebook with me, and I had about 6 or 7 questions that I wanted her to answer. And they weren't so much about who do you know and who can you get me in front of. In fact, it was none of that. It was all kind of admin stuff, how she liked to communicate, where she felt I fitted in at the moment in the industry, what she felt I could be going for next, that kind of thing. And we had a very honest conversation, which reassured me because then I knew that I could trust her. And she brought up all of the points that I was going to ask her. She brought up, so I didn't even have to ask her anything in the end.
Amazing.
Which just proves that I had done my research well, that she was able to answer the questions without me asking. Yeah. If you know what I mean.
Brilliant.
Yes. That's how I did it.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Going back.
Oh, yeah. To the no.
Yeah. Yeah. Just want to return to that no. So the third agent who didn't respond to me at all, I was like, oh, obviously I was disappointed. And then I kind of reframed that disappointment into thinking, right, that person said no to me. Or actually, they didn't have the professional courtesy to say anything to me. So if I go back to my database of the list of agencies, cross straight off. If you don't have the professional courtesy to respond to a professional email, I don't want to have you in my circle of trust, as the man would say from Meet the Fockers.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually you had another brilliant post a while back where you basically coined the well, I don't know if you actually suggested a hashtag or if that came up in the conversation afterwards, but like you basically coined a hashtag own the no, which I thought was brilliant. Yeah, because you you're going to get, you're just going to get them, so not being able to deal with them,
that's the majority.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's really important. One, it's important for actors to look after their mental health. And I believe you can only have a healthy mental life if it's balanced. But if you deny yourself the disappointment of receiving a no and be like, no, I must be positive about it, you're actually it's not a healthy place to be. Allow yourself to be disappointed and share the disappointment. Most of the time, most actors are getting a no. We are one of the few industries where that level of rejection is expected. It isn't like we're going out, for say a corporate job and we'd have say a year of loads of different interviews. We could get 6 no's in 1 week or 6 nothings in not even a response to an audition that we spent time doing, So I think sharing when you get a no it makes the sharing of getting a yes all the more special.
Sure. Yeah, makes sense.
And healthy. People need to do it. But even every time I post like something about, oh God, another audition and another no, I don't even think they downloaded the file or whatever it might be, I will get loads of private messages from people with a similar experience who just aren't quite ready to share it publicly yet, because we have this link between getting a no in our industry and shame. And those two shouldn't be linked at all. Because if you have 50 people going in for a role, 49 of them are getting a no. That doesn't mean 49 of them don't have a talent.
Exactly.
Just they didn't fit the jigsaw.
Yeah, fit the jigsaw. Yeah, that's a really good way of looking at it. Yeah, brilliant. And so your process from beginning to end, how long do you think it took?
Right, let me think. I'd say about 5 months. I spent 5 months. And also, I was in no rush. I was okay about not being in a rush.
Yeah, and I think that's really, I think that's a really important point because I think, we do, if we decide, oh, I should have an agent or I want an agent, we do have a tendency to be like, and I want this to happen tomorrow. So I think it's a really good point that, you did the work, you did it methodically, and it takes time, but you end up in the right place.
And most of that time was thinking, what is it that I want? Yeah. Because a lot of the time, actors are tricked into thinking that what's important is what other people want. And what's important is what that agent wants from you. What's important is what that casting director wants. What's important is what that director wants. But actually, no, you need to take ownership over your own craft, what you have to offer as an artist. And then if you look at the business side, you have to look after what it is that you want to achieve from the industry and use those set of criteria to set about making your plan or your goal or whatever it might be. What you want, not what other people want from you.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, and I think, you said it yourself at the start there. You were saying even, that you have done a great job of finding your own work. And I think, I don't know if, did you ever hear Mark Duplass, the Duplass brothers directors? Mark Duplass gave a speech, can't remember where he was giving it now. And I just thought it was absolutely brilliant. He said, he was talking about filmmakers, but I think it applies to anybody. He said the cavalry is not coming. And basically you've got to do it for yourself. There's nobody coming to save you. And I think like you're a really good example of that, of like, you do not wait around for things to happen for you. You kind of, you have a, I guess like you put your own systems in place for finding the work you want to do.
Yeah, no, that's not there. I do, and I'm quite active in that as opposed to being passive. But there are days when I'm like, oh my God, this isn't working. And it's okay to have those days where you feel like it's not working.
Sure.
But when you're saying that, no one's coming to help you, I actually don't think that's true. I think you could build that team around you. But again, I suppose you're searching those out, and it comes down to establishing what it is that you want to do and finding other people who may not want to achieve the exact same things as you, but who are ambitious like you are, who are near you. So they're open to helping you, and they're open to receiving help from you. And you need to build your own support network around you, which is another Bonnie Gillespie thing, actually, isn't it? What does she call it? Building a web or some kind of a thing?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's funny because I thought you were quoting her when you said the circle of trust there, because she has.
That was your man. Did you have? Yeah.
Because she does. She has something.
The Fockers. Fockers, isn't that? Circle of trust. Isn't it? Yeah.
But yeah, and it's kind of so because we were chatting earlier before the podcast, we were chatting about like Bonnie's other kind of saying about like we have to build the Hollywood we want, which again, like you and I are not in Hollywood, but it's the exact same thing. We have to build the industry we want, which is related, I think, to what you're saying about just building your network, building your whatever you want to call it, your tribe, your web of trust, whatever
web of trust.
name you give to it. And again, I think so. That reminds me of another brilliant post that you did. So basically, actually, people should just follow you on social media. But you had another great post, which I think is really related to this point, which was about. I think it had come about because people I don't remember how the conversation started, but it became clear on one of the groups that we're in that like actors were afraid to ask any questions about auditions that were being posted.
On a casting call. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And I
So
think,
doing your
again, it
due
just goes back
diligence.
to like building the industry that we want. Like if we want to have an environment, you know, if we want to have an environment where we know what we're getting into, and if you know, if you want to be able to define what it is you want as an actor and then go after it, well, then you have to know about the projects, and you're going to have to be willing to ask the questions and not be, you know, not be terrified of putting people off by asking some pertinent questions about a project.
Yeah. So I think there's I think there is this idea that actors are by default difficult, but we're not, right? And so we try and go, no, I'm not difficult. I'm not going to ask a question. I'm very hireable. And that's because of the imbalance of power, the way the industry works, right? But at the same time, if you want to have a good career and you want to identify the goals that you want to achieve, you have got to empower yourself. And the very first step in that is not being afraid to ask a question. So a lot of the time you see on social network, what's social media stuff, you know, you see filmmakers, they might be starting out early career, might be kind of mid-career, and they might have just got funding for their first kind of short or even a feature or whatever, and they're putting together a casting call. Sometimes those casting calls are unprofessional. They look unprofessional, they read unprofessional. Sometimes they're too vague and you don't know if you should be applying for it or not. And sometimes they're dodgy, right? But if they all read the same, what can the actor do to find out what kind of a project it is and whether or not you want to work at it? So I have some guidelines that I use myself. So one, if someone is posting up on social media a casting breakdown, I would want to see their real name, the name of the producer and the name of the director, if possible, up there, or even the name of the writer included in that, and links to their IMDb page or to their previous work somewhere. A real name that I can email. So not something like such and such a film at Gmail. No, give me a name. I want a name of a human being. Yeah. So that's safeguarding yourself, right? Yeah. As well, because you are sending them photographs of yourself, your email address, frequently your phone number, and a link to your own work. Right? So those are really basic things. I also want to see a breakdown of the different characters. I want the character names and what action they do. I don't want to know if she's hot. I don't want to know if he's violent, like if we just use those two stereotypes, right? Because that's kind of what you see an awful lot. I want to know what you're looking for if you need somebody to self-tape. Are you sending sides or are you looking for us to self-tape just any random thing for you? And what deadline? I want to know your shoot dates and I want to know if it's paid. Those simple, basic things that if you're using a casting director, those are the things that they send you. So if a director isn't quite at the stage of their career where they're not using casting director, I think they should do what I tell them to do in their casting breakdown. But if none of those things are there, the actors should be confident enough to ask, because 99% of the time, the person knows the answer to the questions. They just didn't think to put it into the casting call.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's absolutely
directly to actors.
Yeah, exactly. It's absolutely fine if someone is at the point where they don't know what an actor needs to know in order to respond, but they should be willing to actually impart that information once they're asked. Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And I've never come across an example where an actor is asked a question and the person is like, "Oh, that's on a need to know basis" or anything like that. And if they were like that, then it should immediately ring alarm bells. So there's
and you should have a no list.
Exactly.
Every actor should have a no list and a no line. Yeah. And they should have a list of things on it that they won't do, people they won't work with, types of things that they don't want to work on. Yeah. All about empowering the actor.
So the last thing I wanted to chat to you about is kind of slightly off topic to what we've been talking about so far, but it's just that was a couple of things. I mean, basically, first of all, your self-tape game is on fire. And I know from chatting to you before that it's because you've put an awful lot of work into it, not just in terms of like the self-tapes that you do, but in terms of learning how to self-tape. You've done a phenomenal amount of work on it. And you even give workshops in self-taping in Cork now as well. So I just wanted to chat a bit about just briefly chat about self-taping, and because I think it is something, again, it's another topic that comes up again and again in terms of people wondering, what equipment they should buy, what level of spend they need to be thinking about, and basically kind of like what equipment do they absolutely need. And I'm curious about what your thoughts are now, because I know you have invested quite a bit in your setup, and I'm curious about your thoughts about how much that impacts on I suppose, like, how much it impacts on, I don't want to be too like crass about it, but like how it impacts on your success rate as an actor, because I think there's a lot of conflicting opinions around whether we should have the kind of top-notch gear or not.
Yeah. Okay. So like the basics of self-taping are, you need to have light on your face. You need to shoot yourself in a mid-frame, so that's mid-chest up to your head, and have a background that is free from clutter. And often the casting director will say white or grey. But I'm going to come back to that now in a second.
Cool.
So they are the basics of self-taping. So you can do it on your phone, absolutely. Most of the time, the sound that's coming off like your phone will record is good enough. But I think the difference between an okay tape and a great tape, if the performance is equal, is going to be this quality of the sound. So if an actor is going to invest in anything, I think a simple lav mic that goes from their phone onto their costume or whatever they're wearing is a good investment, and you can get them as cheap as 30 quid. They don't have to be very expensive. But what it does is it gives you a whole lot of vocal freedom to not quite project to the phone and only project to the reader, or even just to the mic, which gives your performance a kind of an intimacy.
Right.
But before you even buy a microphone, I would buy a tripod that has a phone adapter on it, because you may not, depending on where you live, you may not have access to like natural light and a clear backdrop. But if you do, and then you don't have a tripod or anything to put your phone on, what are you going to do? And loads of times it's the actors building towers of books and clothes and chairs and all sorts, and they're balancing the phone on it. And then that kind of restricts you on how you can frame yourself.
Yeah.
So I would get...
And I think it's really hard. Like if you're balancing a phone and stuff, it's really hard to get the angle right, because your phone is always going to be tilted slightly back.
Absolutely. Which then frames you in a hero shot, which may not be suitable for the tape that you're doing. So I would go in, like in a lot of the discount stores do cheap tripods. I'd get one of them and a phone tripod, which is a tiny little thing that's like sits on your desk. And the clamp that goes onto your phone should be able to unscrew from the phone tripod, and then you attach that to your camera tripod, and then you have a fantastic tripod usable for your camera, for your phone, and you've spent €40 max.
Cool.
And it will change your life, I promise you. So I have invested quite a lot with my camera. So what happened was, I was taping on my phone. I was actually with George Hanover, who's another actress. Hey, George, if you're listening. And we were trying to tape something. She was up for like a big enough job, and I was helping her, and I was using my phone, and we just couldn't get an angle on it that was right, because my phone wasn't good enough. Now, just note the size of the job that she was going up for. It wasn't a day roll, right? It was a really big, juicy one. And she said, no, I'm happy with it. And she sent off her tapes and they looked amazing. And I was just really frustrated anyway. And she was like, well, Claire, you did 2 commercials this year. And I had booked 2 commercials. And she said, why don't you just buy yourself a phone, buy yourself a camera? I was like, I had no excuse. I was afraid to invest the money back into me as a business.
Sure.
So I bought the camera. And the difference it has made to my taping is phenomenal, I've got to say. Now, bearing in mind that I wasn't using a great phone anyway, right?
Right.
And I had the option of buying a good phone or buying a camera. So I bought the camera because maybe I might want to make my own film eventually, because
Sure.
directing is something that I would like to get into anyway.
Cool.
So yeah, I bought the proper camera, and I found, for me personally, it gives me a whole lot more freedom in terms of how I can frame myself, what blocking I can include in a tape, because I'm not worried about coming in and out of frame. I'm not worried about coming in and out of focus. It makes editing, just for me, it makes it a little bit easier. And that, coupled with having a rep from a new agent, means that I am getting asked to tape for ever increasing size roles.
Yeah.
So
Brilliant.
like I went from, before having the camera and before having an agent, right? So there's the combination of the two. I was maybe getting seen for 1 or 2 line in a day player every now and then by Louise O'Neill, and up for commercials. Then since I signed with Alex, I'm getting callbacks and leads and features. I'm getting to the callback stages of recurring characters in international TV shows. Now that is
Excellent.
me going, oh, aren't I amazing? But that is just the difference.
Yeah.
Having the support system of an agent, and having the confidence to invest back into myself and the business end of things from an equipment point of view.
Yeah.
Has made, I feel, to me, and I don't think it's a coincidence.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Also, though, I think it is I think it's worth mentioning as well that yes, you invested in the equipment, but you also put in a massive time investment, because I know I know we did a self-tape challenge, and then you did at least one more self-tape challenge after that. I did.
Yeah, I do loads.
So, I mean, you have really worked at perfecting the art of the self-tape. And
in all that I've learned, thanks. But in all that I've done so many, and they can be from. So usually it's casting directors who are running it, and I've learned that every casting director has a different taste in the type of self-tape that they like, in terms of framing and how much extra business they want in it, and how much. Some just want it very clean, exactly what's on the page, right? So you have to learn what it is that each one responds to. But also I've learned, and I'm at the stage now, quite frankly, it's you'll take what you're given, because what I'm going to give you is going to be good. Sure. In terms of my taping. I'm not going to, I remember getting ridiculous direction in tapes, acting out a car crash. No, you won't. I know, I'm not taping. You need to, we need to draw the line somewhere. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Huge technical elements of change angle at that and do this. So no. But I would say having my camera, and maybe people can do it on their phone as well. I like to set the scene in my tape. So a simple thing is, say, you're taping a scene and it's set in a car. I'll set up the car. I'll set up my chair so it's very slightly at an angle, as opposed to just delivering it straight. Do you know what I mean? So I'm still more or less center of frame, but my body might be at a little bit of an angle.
Sure.
And looking across the lens at the reader, whatever it might be. So I like to do that. And it means that I have the freedom then to, I had a tape to do for a midwife, right? And the midwife was helping a woman give birth, and she was on the floor of a moving train. I don't think you could do that scene sitting down, and I don't think you can do it standing up. You need to be on the floor to do it. But having the camera and the tripod gave me the freedom, the technical freedom, to be able to do it without worrying that the camera was going to fall off, or
sure,
my phone might fall off the shelf or whatever.
Yeah,
if that's
and it's interesting as well, because so I haven't invested the time or in the equipment that you have, and as a result, every self-tape that I'm doing myself here, it never looks the way I want it to, even though I have a basic understanding of lighting setups, and I have a basic understanding of, no, it's just never, I still have not got the hang of it. But sorry, what was my point going to be? Oh yeah. So previously I would always have said, look, I don't think you need to invest huge amounts of money. I think that you should never invest money that you don't have. So I think you made a really good point there when you said you had booked some commercials which allowed you to invest back into the business. And I think that's really, really smart. And I think that if you can do that, then yes, you can give yourself, basically give yourself every advantage that you can afford to give yourself. And previously, I would have said at
Absolutely.
the end of the day, it doesn't matter that it will, at the end of the day, it'll come down to performance. But if you have two, if someone is looking at two kind of equal performances, but one is presented a lot better, of course, it's going to have like the viewer is going to have a more positive emotional reaction with the higher production values.
Yeah, because it's going to help them land you in the scene that they're casting for quicker than it would if the quality of the tape wasn't great. Also, if you're suddenly up for roles against, so I did a tape and you helped me for a Canadian production that I know is casting in Canada and in the US. And there is no doubt about it that the actresses up for those roles will probably go to a professional studio to have because this was a bip role, to have their tapes done. So like me doing a poorly lit, a poor sound quality tape using an old phone isn't going to cut it anymore. That would be my opinion on that.
Yeah.
And just to reiterate, I had the money to invest.
Yeah. No, I think that's another really important point, because I don't know where I heard it actually, but I heard some Irish casting directors, talking about the fact that we now are in a situation where, streaming, I think streaming has had a lot to do with it. So we have people like Amazon and Netflix and Apple who are shooting here, but they're used to seeing the Hollywood level self-tapes where someone is getting it professionally done, as you just said. And so they are coming at it from a very different perspective than maybe the traditional local filmmakers, who would be much more forgiving. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And just because you asked me earlier about, we were talking about an uncluttered backdrop, because we were talking about this before we started recording the podcast. So I used to use a grey pop-up backdrop that I bought on Amazon, and it did me for 6-7 years, whatever it might have been. But then I sent off a tape to a casting director with the grey backdrop, and he gave me a call back. But he didn't want to do the scene on the call back. He wanted to have a Zoom chat like we're having now. So he gave me literally 15 minutes notice. And I was like, oh my God. So he's like, oh my God, brush my hair, put on a top, turn on Zoom. And it was in front of the wall that you see me on now. And the wall is painted this kind of navy green color.
Right.
And the first thing he said to me was, you should use that backdrop for your taping anymore, because it complements your skin and hair color far better than the grey. So when casting directors are saying a plain white or plain grey backdrop, that's kind of what they have in their casting office, more or less. Those seem to be the colour. However, if those colours don't suit you, if you look washed out, use a backdrop that suits you.
Yeah, no, I think that's another brilliant tip, because I have that same grey pop-up backdrop that you had, and I look washed out in every self-tape. So yeah. Amazing. Wow. Listen, this has been an incredible chat, and covered so many. We covered a lot of cool topics there. And thank you. Yeah, thanks a million for like basically being generous enough to share all the things that you've learned on these topics. Where can people find out more about you or connect with you on social media, or where do you like to?
I use Instagram. I think I'm called Claire Frilly on Instagram and Facebook. I shut down my my Twitter because I was just getting to be a very angry place.
Yeah.
I don't like angry people, so I shut it down. I might go back again if I get a burst of anger and I need to take it out on someone. No, I probably won't. So Instagram can find me Claire Frilly, and if you add me on Facebook, I like to add actors on Facebook because I want to build a community that is open and honest, and where an actor can go, Jesus, can someone help me do this? And another actor will be going, yeah, I'll help you. I'll show you. If I can't help you, I'll show you where you can get the help. Because I remember, sorry now, just to rewind, I remember when I decided to be an actor and I went into an arts facility, we'll call it, in Cork City. And I said to the woman behind the reception desk, I said, excuse me, is there a place where I can find out about auditions or how to become an actor? And she laughed in my face.
Oh my God.
And I went, oh my God. So I was about 21 when that happened. And it took me until I was 30 to get the courage back up, to go back in and decide to become an actor. Because I just thought, well, I don't belong in this world. And I never want anyone to experience that ever. So if you have a question, ask me. I'll happily answer.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. Brilliant. Thanks a million for coming on and for sharing all of that. And I'll chat to you soon.
Yeah, good luck. Shall see you soon.
Be sure and check out Claire's mysite.actor website at www.clairejloy.com. Connect with her on Facebook and follow her on Instagram at Claire Frilly. Thank you so much for listening. As always, connect with me on Twitter at FrankieP, and I will catch you next time. Cheers.